Hey, what's up, Liron here. Today I want to share with you the secret to juicy watercolor shadows. This is something a lot of people struggle with. Your shadows end up just being messy, too gray, too boring. They don't communicate well with the rest of the scene. I'm going to solve that problem for you today, and you're going to see in just 1 second how I do this. So I'm going to start with a sky wash. Now, the whole idea with this painting is the focal point is going to be the light shining on this building. In order to get that feeling, we need to trap the light in a lot of shadows. However, I don't want to compromise the smoothness of my wash. So what I'm going to do is use a smooth wash, wet wash for the sky that I know is a little too light. I'm going to have to go over it again, probably at least once, if not twice. What you see me doing now is mixing, and this is the heart of how to get juicy watercolor shadows and colors in general. Just look at how much paint I'm using here. I'm using mostly quinacridone rose and this blue that I don't even remember what it is. It's close to phthalo blue if I'm not mistaken. Look at this color. I'm going directly with this color in order to paint the shadow. My goal is, I'm recognizing that the shadow is kind of a gray, violety, purple color. Now, a common adage in watercolor painting is paint light to dark. So what you might do is cover the entire building with the yellow kind of glowy color, have the sky be blue, blah, 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 cover the whole thing up. That's nice. That's fun sometimes to do, but I find very often for myself, I'm very impatient and I enjoy seeing the immediate result. So what I will end up doing is just looking at the shadow, figuring out what color it is and just putting that color there. And you know, a lot of people say the quality of watercolor is in the transparent layers. You can see the shine of the building under the purple. I call BS to some extent. Sometimes there are interesting effects that can be created, but I think ultimately the same thing can be created in one wash for most cases. Not for all, don't come at me, but for most cases. You don't have to do this roundabout way of a million washes. You can just set it up the first time. Now, this isn't going to be dark enough. I'm not going the full value yet, but I do want to establish the color, the saturation. I want this to be as violety, pure violet as I can, with those touches of areas that are a little lighter, that I'm already lifting using some water, and the areas that are darker that I'm already establishing doing wet and wet. Now for my dark color choice, I'm using the same mix I have here with neutral tint. Another thing that people mention is, not mixing blank and watercolor. That is completely wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. It all depends on the final mix you're trying to do, and a lot of the time, using a naturally dark black pigment can help you get there. It doesn't mean your shadows are going to be gray, as I'm demonstrating to you here. It doesn't mean they're going to be flat, dead, boring, all of that stuff. It's in how you use the color. So you kind of have to unlearn and forget about a lot of the common misconceptions in watercolor in order to get a result you truly want sometimes. Now I'm mixing this vibrant red, and you can already see where I'm applying it because we're going to do the same here for this building. Remember, the idea here is the focal point, that beautiful area with the window that is bathed in light that I have not painted yet. We want to wrap it in shadows, and guess what? That building on the left is also a shadow. It's in the shadow. Everything is in the shadow except for some areas that are in the light. So I'm going straight in with this red. Now I'm not too worried about it touching my violety purple here. I'm trying not to create huge cauliflowers for myself, but if they do touch, that's fine. Now here's a very effective way of painting the windows. The pattern goes gray on the right, black on the left. So I'm just putting gray on the right, black on the left, letting these kind of blend together. There are a lot of white gaps that I left there, some on purpose, some not, but I'm going to close off some of them. You'll see in a couple of moments. It's not really a big deal. I do have in mind the temperatures as I do this, okay, how warm the building is, so adding these touches of yellow can really help to show there is a bit of a feeling of warmth even on the white bricks that are on it. Colors are a very wholesome thing. It's in how they work together, not necessarily how one color does the whole job. So every object reflects light on other objects, and the warmth of the building, of the wall underneath the red does show in some of the white bricks, and it's all just a togetherness experience. This is why it is sometimes popular to paint the entire thing and let colors mix together. There is some value to that. There is some merit in that. It's not like I'm against that. But in this example, I'm showing you a different approach of just going straight for it. And that means I'm painting the shadows as I see them. Look at these beautiful orange colors here that we applied for the rooftops to show the rooftops that catch the light. Here I muted this wash with a bit of blue. It needs to be a little more neutral, and I'm gonna make it too warm on the right side, and I'll have to fix it, by the way. Now, my paper is too long for the painting's orientation. The entire bottom inch will be unnecessary. I could practically cut it. I probably won't, but just know that's why the bottom, bottom inch is such a mess. It's of no consequence. And I'm establishing the shadows around the orange rooftops. I'm skipping the highlights, as you see in many places. And I'm adding a few details, the dark details that I'm seeing. Why? Because it's a wonderful opportunity. The paint is wet. I can do a lot of things with it. I can make use of that to get a lot of smooth edges, vague details. This painting is another nice exploration of some of the abstract qualities of watercolor painting, but you'll notice I'm going straight for the final impression. Aside from the sky, where it was important for me to get a good flow, then I kind of decided that I'm gonna paint a few glazes, and that is fine. Now I'm painting the shadow on that side of the building. Notice the beautiful color, the contrast in temperature. Left side is violet, right side is an orange. The violet is a little cooler, right? They're both could be looked at warm because violet has, or purple has both red and blue, but the orange is undoubtedly warm. It's just yellow and red. Now I'm mixing a very pale light yellow wash to get that part. That's the focal point that I've been talking about since the start of this video. And this is where things get exciting because we lay down the groundwork to get this to look wonderful. So I'm starting to establish the yellow area. It has a bit of variance. There's a bit of yellow and then touches of orange for areas where there are visible red bricks. Because they're hit by the light, they read almost as very strong orange. And going straight for the window as well, the shadows within the window. These are beautiful Venetian, by the way, windows. For a photo I took in Venezia, and I'm gonna paint this larger, more dedicated version. But these are the beautiful green, I don't know what you call these, just window doors, I guess, that are very iconic. I think I really like these. Letting this area kind of mix together, even the shadow of those window, I don't know, that's sills? I don't think it's sills. What are sills anyway? Let me know in a comment below. But I'm adding this, as you see, the shadow, and it's all mingling together, and that is fine. The reason I'm okay with that is because I also have the other version where I just paint the wash as the final look. Now, we're going to continue trapping that light on the building, but we're not done yet. There's going to be another wash after this one. So we keep trapping and bringing more attention to the highlights, like this farther highlight where I'm adding the yellow back in, just like I did with the other one. This is me painting mid-value to light to dark, kind of skipping, traveling between the rest. Now, we're going to continue trapping that highlight by darkening the areas around it. And because we're talking about a very direct approach, once again, I'm using very bold reds, very strong colors here. I'm going to do a similar thing for the violety purple wall. I'm running it in time-lapse a bit because I don't want to be repetitive. This is pretty much the same thing. The thicker the wash gets, the harder it is to get an even wash. That's something to have in mind. So you have to be quick and snappy with your technique. Okay, something to have in mind. Now I'm continuing to work on this wall. Not all of it has to be darker, so I'm starting with a dark bit, then I'm kind of using water to push it out and blend it together and make it look really, really nice while maintaining and painting around the highlights we defined earlier, okay? Now, as I'm doing that, this is a beautiful warm area of the wall there. And these are the orangey red bricks. Wonderful, wonderful thing to see. Old buildings with rich history. I absolutely love it. And once again, the more we push around that focal point, darkening it, the more it's going to pop. Then once we start adding some details to the window there, it's going to pop some more. So something to have in mind. That's how I view planning my painting process. That's my plan, so to speak. I know what I want to express, and then everything is just geared towards it. And it's fine if I take detours, it's fine if I take a lot of artistic liberties, but the idea is, will I be able to tell my story? That's the thing that guides me, and I really enjoy it. Now everything is dry now. I pre-wet, and I'm coming back with a bit of a dark wash because I want to separate the violet from the red. Violet's a little darker, so I'm going over that especially lower area, not all of it, and I'm just pushing it to be a little darker to make that separation between the two. That's pretty much why this step is there. There's a mild difference in values that I wanted to capture here. And then, you know, while it's wet, you can continue doing wet and wet, and you can add some maybe brick patterns, maybe stuff like that. This is the wonderful Michael Soloviev brush. I love it. It has the smoothest wet and wet experience. It's really good. And I'm adding this stronger shadow for the Windows door. And kind of defining some of the other shadows. This is in the shadow, this entire door, because the light comes from the left and it's open like this. So this is in the shadow, and plus some details here on the right. Look at how already your attention starts to move towards that. Now, under the window, there's this white kind of, I don't know what you call that, just a brick right under the window. Notice how underneath it there's a white, paper white that should not be there. You'll see me correct that in a second with a bit of warmth. And these things they're not super important. By the way, this is beautiful lemon yellow, I believe. It's very opaque. You can paint over stuff with it and it looks wonderful to create that plant feel to it, some greenery. Here we go. See that yellow touch under that white area? It gives it meaning, right? Same here for these two areas. When you narrow down and minimize the number of highlights, this is very important, by the way, this shadow for the shape of the window door, okay, very important. When you narrow down the paper whites, you give them more meaning. Now, this is the final wash for the sky. It is a bit gradual, so the sky goes from dark to light, but I flipped it upside down. I'm going to start light to dark. I find it's sometimes easier to paint this way. It's easier to get a smooth result sometimes. So here's a quick tip for you. If you're struggling getting a transition from dark to light, try flipping the page around, doing light to dark, like I'm doing here. Now, I am taking a bit of risk. I didn't mix a large quantity of paint. I was like, yeah, it's going to be fine. I'm not always like that. Sometimes I'm planning more. Sometimes I'm using a larger brush. That's fine. It's kind of in the mood. Lastly, we're going to start adding some highlights and kind of final details to bring out the end result and bring out some details that are very hard to bring out otherwise. And you're going to start seeing this connect. Hopefully, if you haven't, it's okay. Not all paintings are going to connect. To me, that's pretty much the moment where I'm like, okay, when I flipped it upside down, saw the sky versus the building, I'm like, this is a nice one. No, of course, this is not a large detailed masterpiece at all. This is closer to an experimental sketch. But what I wanted to show you especially here is, if you're like me, you have this fire in you when you paint, it can be hard to channel it with watercolor. You may not know how to do that. You may end up with a result you're quite frankly disgusted with. It's something that can happen. Instead of all of that, maybe, just maybe, the solution is in getting to the final impression, enjoying that. And by putting in the color you know is the final color you're going to put there, it can give a lot of satisfaction. And you know me, I'm a big fan of the transparent watercolor media. Honestly, I'm super bored with media that are opaque and dry. I don't like them. I enjoy watercolor's flow. With that flow, though, you do have the choice of placing in a shape that's going to be the final shape. There is an artist, I forgot his name, I talked about him in a different video, wonderful artist who was a master at recognizing that final color of a shadow and just putting it in there with lots of purples, violets, pinks. He would just go in there get in there with the shadows, just create beautiful results. I don't remember who it was. It was more than 2 years ago, I think, but it kind of reminded me this is something worth trying. And if you're like me, and again, you kind of want to see the end result, there's no reason to paint everything cover the whole paper and slowly bring it towards completion. You can just decide that an area is going to be finished in one go, and then work on another area and another area. The entire painting does not have to flow together. Not everything has to flow together. Some areas can flow together while the others are more separate. And I think there's a lot of fun and satisfaction in that. Okay, so do with this information what you will. And if you're looking to create juicy shadow colors, just know that you can go for it. And I can probably add in another wash or two without overworking this one and improving it. But you know what? I kind of like the way it looks now. I like the way it looks with these little highlights on it. I like the vagueness of it. And I do like how the window in the light, that's the thing that gets the focal point, and it does look quite good. It looks like two doors that are open. I think it works, and I think it looks wonderful. I'm going to share with you the end result in just a couple of moments. I do want to thank you so much for watching this process. I really do appreciate it. If you want to support my work, be sure to check out my Patreon. If you want to receive credits at the end of the videos, here's the final result. If you want to receive credits at the end of the videos, check it out. Another exclusive process coming onto Patreon really soon. And lastly, the biggest favor you can do for me right now, if you're interested, is to head over to Amazon and get my newest book, Painting a Masterpiece. Basically how I painted 100 cars to achieve watercolor perfection. I think it will provide you with a lot of inspiration if you know someone who likes art and watercolor in particular, or someone who knows me in particular who would enjoy this book. I would greatly appreciate it if you get it for them as a gift. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your support. We'll see you in another vid. Take care.